Hello everybody, my name is Stavri and today I'm going to show you how to create a nicely looking Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. In order to open the Microsoft Office PowerPoint application, you can click on the PowerPoint icon here. As a result, the PowerPoint Office application will open. And you will see here there are a few options that we could choose from. Either we can choose a predefined PowerPoint template, or we could go with this option, namely to open a completely blank PowerPoint presentation. I suggest that we could start from the scratch, and this is why we will choose a blank PowerPoint presentation. Before doing this, I would like to mention the motivation for creating such a video. I found over the years, and based on my experience as a university lecturer as well as an engineer in practice, that there were many and still are many people, including my friends, colleagues and students, who do not still feel comfortable enough to use Microsoft PowerPoint in creating nicely looking PowerPoint presentation. This video is dedicated to any of you who would like to enrich your existing knowledge and skills or develop new ones. Welcome again. Now, mentioning that we are going to start from the scratch, we can go and click here to open a new presentation. The same we could do if we click on the new button. So whenever you decide to open a new PowerPoint presentation, you can choose any of these two options. I'll go with this one, click on it. And now you see that a new PowerPoint file is open. It is called by default presentation 1 PowerPoint. Before we do anything, we go and directly select the file under a name, which we could either do when click on the save button here, select the name and the location that we would like to save the file. The same you could do if you go and click on your keyboard the F12 button. As a result, you will see Windows is open, from where you could choose the desktop, and then on the desktop I have created a PowerPoint for everyone folder here, and here is the place where the newly created file will be residing. So I will choose the name before I save it. I will name this file PowerPoint Basics. The file will be saved under this name with an extension PPTX, which is about PowerPoint presentation. You can click on the save button, and as a result you will see now we saved our newly created file under the name PowerPoint Basics. And what we see now is a completely empty page, white page, which essentially is called slide in Microsoft PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint the pages are known as slides, and by default the new presentation that we just created, I mean the file, contains only one slide. And by default this slide contains few text fields in which we could type something if we need, but I would suggest to delete these two text fields, just clicking on them and pressing the delete button, so that eventually we would have a blank slide. From time to time I would suggest to go and click on the save button to make sure that whatever we have created is saved. Now, of course, our presentation is not just one page presentation. In this occasion, or our use case, we will be using dummy data, sample data, just to create a nicely looking and appealing presentation. Let's assume that you would like in your daily work to create a presentation. This presentation, which would be Microsoft PowerPoint presentation, would be quite helpful to you and your colleagues to understand what you have done, how you have done it. So using Microsoft PowerPoint, you can create presentations, which presentations can be used on your daily work when you attend some team meetings or when you go and visit a scientific conference or a seminar where to present your results. So on the one hand, you as a presenter would be able to present your results obtained from the study that you have conducted or the task you have worked on. On the other hand, the audience would also be interested to see the result. That is why it is recommended that the presentation itself should be supplemented with some animation and visual effects, which could do this presentation nicely looking, and the audience would be easily understanding the results. So it is quite important how your presentation is created, what it presents, and the way you are presenting it. That is why we can move from this point ahead. Well, we have created one slide. We can create a new one or add a new slide when you just go into the home menu and section slides. You can see here there is a button called new slide. You click on it, and when you click on this button, you will see different patterns that you could choose from, including empty, blank slide, which we are going to select, or other slides containing different text fields and options similar to the one that we just opened initially. So this is why I just click on blank, and you can see now in our PowerPoint presentation we've got two slides. However, we also could do the other approach, which allows to create a copy of an existing slide. For example, if I click on the first slide or even on the second, if I need a third slide in my PowerPoint presentation, then I select one of these slides, click on the right mouse button, and you see now there is a pop-up menu here from which you could either delete the existing, the selected slide, which we don't need, or create a copy of it, which is the option duplicate slide. This is the one that I'm going to select, and when you select it, you see we just created a copy of an existing, initially predefined or pre-selected slide. So now we've got 3 slides in total in our presentation, which look like exactly the same way. However, as I suggested initially, our PowerPoint presentation should be looking nicely, and this is why we wouldn't need our presentation to contain just empty, blank pages which are in white color, because the presentation itself, one of the strengths of it is the way it is looking. So based on this, we can say, okay, I'm going to present my results, but let's also enhance these results with supplementing it with some visual effects, images and other things. So this is why I would suggest here to create or actually use an image as a background. So under the background, you can understand that we see one of the slides, and the background itself is an image, which is a image of let's say a view, image of something which can be easily imported as a background in your slides. However, For example, if we have not 3, but our presentation might have 33 slides, this would mean that we should go on each and every slide and import 33 times the same image as a background, which is, as you can understand, time-consuming task, and it takes efforts. This is why there is an option in PowerPoint which allows to do this job once. And in order to do this, you can go to the View menu here and select from it Slide Master. When you click on this button, we will see on the top there is a slide which is called Master Slide, and whenever option you select or put here, it will be automatically applied to all the slides in your presentation. In this occasion or example, we would like to insert a background image. To do this, you can go and click on the master slide, click on the right mouse button, and here you would see the option into the pop-up menu, which option is called Format Background. When you click on it, you will see a Format Background section is open on the right hand side part of your screen, and you can go and select the option Gradient View. You see Picture or Texture View. When we select a picture, there should be here an Insert button which we click, which allows to select in between 4 options. I will go with from a file, which means that I'm going to select a file, which file will be inserted as an image. I click here and go to the newly created folder PowerPoint, and inside this folder there is a file called Sky with an extension JPG. I select this file, click on the Insert button, and as a result you see the image which is in that file sky.jpg gets inserted into the master slide. In order to apply to all the slides in my file or presentation this image, I will need to click on the Apply to All button. As a result, this image should have been inserted into each of the slides that I have in my presentation. What I suggest to check if this happened. So click here on the Close Master View button, and we go back to our presentation, and as you can see now, we have 3 identical slides in our PowerPoint presentation with exactly the same background image, which is a sky with a few clouds, nicely looking. And this is the point where we can go and click on the Save button to make sure that we have saved the changes that we did. Of course, you can go and click here this X button to close this part and save again the presentation. Now, what we could do here is the following. We could start with the first page, which in our example would be the title page. Here you can insert the topic, the subject of the presentation that you are creating, the name of the presenter, some contact details such as an email address and a website, for example, a company name, some keywords, and so on. But before doing this, let's insert one more thing. You see we've got 3 pages, but actually these pages do not have any numbers, so we could go and insert page number. In order to do this, you can go and click on the Insert button here and go to section Text, from where you can click on the button Slide Number. You see now a header and footer window pops up, from where you can put a tick into the checkbox called Slide Number, which is for the page number. On the other hand, you can go and check this checkbox which is called date and time, and select date format. For example, I will go with this option, and then you can click on the apply to all button. As a result, you will see two things. Firstly, on the right bottom corner of your screen, you will see a number of a page, the current page. On the left corner, you will see today's date, which is 18th of May 2025. You can go and save your work. Now, this date automatically updates as many times as you open your presentation. If you are going to open your presentation tomorrow, then this date would change to 19th of May 2025. Now, after we inserted numbers of the pages as well as current date, which changes according to the day you are presenting, we could go to the first page and insert few text fields. For example, you can go to the insert menu, and again into the text section you click on the text box. When you click on the text box, you see your mouse pointer change and you can draw text box. In this text box you can write down, for example, subject. The subject of our PowerPoint presentation is called PowerPoint Basics. However, the font is still quite small, so that we could increase it. We select the text, go here, change the font type, for example, to Arial, and then you can also change the font size. For example, we can use this option. Now we should also align our subject, clicking on this button, and probably change the color of the text, because our background, which is the sky, is a little bit dark, so probably white color would be better instead of a black color for our text, I mean the subject of our presentation. This is why you can go and click here and select white as a color for our subject. You can put it here, let's say. Save your work. Then you can go back to the insert menu and again select another text box. You can draw it, and here you can type your name or the names of the presenters. Again, you can select the text and format it according to your needs. Change the font type and size also. As well as the color. And you can align the text here. It is also good when you put some contact details. That is why you could select the current text box, click on the right mouse button and select copy. Then using the key combination Ctrl and V, you can paste here the copy of the text box that we created and type your email address, for example. You can change the size of the font as well as the color. I will go with dark blue color for the email address. You can also go and create one more copy. Just click on the text box, right mouse button for a copy, then Ctrl V key combination, and now we've got, as you can see, one more text box where you could type your company's web address. like this. You can create another copy of this text box, paste it, and write your company's name somewhere. Actually, this one. Of course, here you can also, at the top of your first slide, you can also insert a logo of the company or of the institution or organization you are representing if you need, which is not strictly required, but still it would be a good idea. And of course, you also can input one more section, insert, menu, text section, text box, and here you could type, for example, keywords, because we are going to use some words more than once. Keyword section, which keyword section would contain some of the words that we are mostly using in our PowerPoint presentation, such as presentation, PowerPoint, what else? We can extend this text box, of course. Results, tables, graphs, charts, because the presentation itself, its purpose is just to allow you present to the audience the results that you have obtained as a result of research that you have conducted, a job that you have done, a project task that you have worked on. So the presentation should talk about your results, and the way you are presenting these results is very important. Okay, now after we have put here our keywords, of course we can extend this list, but for now it's okay. We talk about presentation. PowerPoint is the tool that is helpful when creating PowerPoint presentations. The results that you are going to present, either in tables or a graphical format or charts. So you could use this approach. Of course, this list of keywords could be extended at some point, and you can save your work. Okay, now we can go to the second page where we would like to present or show the results that we've got. For example, we may have some table and or chart which we would like to insert and present to the audience. There are different approaches, but one of the quickest ones would be just to open the file which contains tables and charts, to copy these tables and charts and insert or paste them here. For example, I have created a file called sales of bike. This is an Excel file, Microsoft Office Excel file, which is a spreadsheet. When you click here and open the file, you will see in this file few things. Firstly, there is a worksheet called sheet 1. This worksheet, which is the electronic table, the spreadsheet itself, the worksheet into the Excel file. On the other hand, you know, the Excel file is also called a workbook. So one Excel file or a workbook may contain more than one or more than one worksheets. which is called sheet 1, sheet 2, and so forth. But on this occasion, in this particular example, I've got only one sheet which contains a few elements. A table 1 called sales, which contains data, a dummy data. This is not real data, just for the example, for purposes of this example. It contains 2 columns, product and quantity of this product, which quantities have been sold. For example, we've got 3 models or types of bikes, which are named bike 1, bike 2, and bike 3. We've got the quantities of the bikes that have been sold, and the illustration of these sales is done in 2 charts. A part of a bar chart, which shows the numbers of the bikes that have been sold for each of the models, model 1, 2, and 3. And on the other hand, we also have another graph called pie chart, which contains the shares of the sales for each type of the models, which, for example, means the following: 70% of the sales are of bikes of model 2, 20% of the sales are for bikes of model 1, and only 10% are those bikes that have been sold, which is actually bikes of model 3. So what we've got here is just one table and two illustrations, bar chart and a pie chart. It is important to show the results that you've got in the best way that you could. For example, on the one hand, bar chart would be appropriate, but also in this occasion, pie chart is also useful. That is why I'm suggesting that we could use both the charts. So what we are going to do now, we need to get this table and charts and transfer them to our PowerPoint presentation. How we are going to do this? Firstly, let's get the table, because the table contains the data that has been illustrated or visualized in these charts. In order to do this, you could just use the snipping tool, and as soon as it's opening, you can click on the new button and select just the table as an object, just like this. Then you can go to your PowerPoint presentation, select the second page, and click on the paste menu here. Select paste special, and here you can click bitmap. Press the OK button, and now you can see that we just inserted the table which contains data about the sales that we have made in this example. Once again, this data is for testing purposes. It's not a real data, just for example and educational purposes. So now we have inserted our table here. Then we can go to the Excel file and select the bar chart. Once it has been selected, you can click copy, or the key combination, as you can see here in the brackets, Ctrl+C. Ctrl+C, for example, select it, Ctrl+C, go back to your presentation, and now select again paste special, and there is a list of the types that we could use to import our object. So I will insert it as a picture PNG here. And now you can see our table representing the sales has been just inserted. Just to mention one thing, do you see on the right hand side there are different options that actually are being proposed by the Microsoft PowerPoint automatically, which allows you to use these options if you need. just to create your slide more attractive, more colors, you know, and other things. But I will suggest now to continue with our slide. You can click on X button here, designer, and close this window, save your work. And now just to mention one more thing, actually there is another option which you could use to connect a Microsoft Excel file and PowerPoint presentation in such a way that whenever we go in our Excel file and make any changes into the values or update the values which would be reflected into the charts, then we would be able to automatically use the updated tables and charts in our PowerPoint presentation, which at this moment we are not going to do because what we inserted stays static. I mean, in our table the values do not move. It is our table is not alive, it is just an object. The same applies to the graph. So let's assume that tomorrow our sales change and the levels of sales also change, then this would mean that these numbers also would change, and the values that are visualized, of course, in these charts would also change. But in our presentation this is not now reflected. But in case we would like to do this, it is possible. But for the sake of the example that I'm presenting, we don't need this. We are only inserting tables and charts as a static object which do not reflect any changes into the origin file, which is the Excel file with the table and the charts. Now, after mentioning this, we can go and select by clicking on it the second chart, which is the pie chart. Press the key combination Ctrl C, go back to the PowerPoint file, and again select paste special, type of the object picture PNG, click here, and again you see that the second chart was just inserted into our PowerPoint presentation. Save your work. Now it is important to mention that depending on the object type you are inserting your charts depends the size of the file. So it is just a trade-off between quality and on the one hand the quality of the image, and on the other the size of the file that you are going to have. Because if we would like to import or insert the object, I mean the chart, with a higher quality, this would take a lot of memory. In other words, your file would increase in terms of its size. But at this moment this is not an issue. Now what we did, we just inserted the table as well as two charts, a bar chart and a pie chart, which present or visualize the data from this table, which actually contains two columns: the products, which is 3 models of bikes, and the sales that we have made, the quantities, I mean, in this particular example using dummy data. Now after we have inserted the table and the charts, we of course could go and align the chart, the table and other things. We can also go and insert some title or caption of the chart, going to the insert menu, click on the text box, and you can write down here, for example, table 1 sales. And of course you can go again and play with the formattings, I mean the font type, font size and a color, so that everything looks good. In this way, table 1 sales. You can, using the right and left arrow keys or up and down, just to align the caption of your table, and of course click on the save button again. Now, do you see these two charts don't have the same size? So in order to align them, you can click on the first one, right mouse button, select size and position, and then you can see here it is very important to check the lock aspect ratio. So in this way, if we are going to increase the size of the bar chart, it will automatically auto increase it, not only in terms of the height but also in terms of the width, keeping the scale the same. Now we've got two charts which look good, and we could also put some caption. For example, going to the insert menu, select text box and click here, figure 1, let's say, levels of sales of bikes. In brackets, model 1, 2 and 3 if you wish. Again, you can select the text, go and use font size similar to the one that we used for the table, or take a look here. When you click on the text box and select the caption of the table, you can go and click here this button, Format Painter. When you click here and go and select the caption of the first chart, you can see that automatically the formatting has been transferred from the table to the figure using the same font type, font size and a color. You can go then click on here, copy, and paste the text box with Ctrl+V here, and here we would have figure number 2, which is, let's say, distribution in terms of the percentage, distribution of sales of bikes model 1 through 3 in percentage. You see, actually what we have here is data for the same thing but presented in two different ways, either in absolute numbers or in percentages, depending on the purposes. Now you can go and again click on the save button to save the changes that you have made. Of course, there can also be another page with the conclusions that you have drawn based on the analysis that you have conducted here about the results shown in a tabular format in table 1, as well as in a graphical format illustrated in figures 1 to figure 2. Now we can go to the third slide, which is the ending slide. Usually it is a good idea just to acknowledge the presence of your audience, their patience sometimes, you know, and for doing this you can insert a text box like this one. Click here and you can just type "Thank you for your attention." And of course you can select whatever you have written here, go here to the font section into the home menu and select appropriate font type, font size, highlighting the importance of your audience. You can also choose this option to make the text bold. You can change the color, of course, for example white, and you can align it in this way. Save your work. Just to mention, when you click on this text box, you can see this option here, text shadow, which gives a better look of your message. So you can keep it in this way, save your work. Now what we did is the following. we created a PowerPoint presentation, which PowerPoint presentation is composed of 3 slides. The first one is the cover slide, which contains the subject of your presentation, the topic that you are going to present, the name of the presenters or a presenter, their contact details such as an email address and or website, as well as the name of the company you are presenting, or the institution or organization, university, whatever it is. And of course keywords, which are also helpful, keywords, and not to forget the date as well as the number of each of the page, which is the slide. So we said that actually a PowerPoint presentation contains pages which are called slides. Our PowerPoint presentation contains 3 slides: the cover slide, the second slide that presents or visualizes the results either in a table format or in graphical format, for which we have used 2 types of charts, bar chart as well as pie chart, to present the values, the data, in 2 different ways, in absolute values as well as in percentages. So whatever of the options you choose, you could easily then go and perform your analysis, for which you can draw conclusions which also could be presented to your audience. And eventually, in order to thank your audience, you create the ending slide on which you can just type "thank you for your attention" to acknowledge your audience, to acknowledge and thank to them for their questions, suggestions, comments, and so on. And again, from time to time, you can go and click on the save button to save the changes that you have made here. What is also very helpful is once we have created the PowerPoint presentation, formatted the different slides, and just inserting the background image, for which we used from view menu the slide master, if you can remember. Then we use different font types, font sizes, and colors to highlight some of the key points, let's say, or the subjects of your presentation. Here we used or applied some visual effects to make our presentation nicely looking. And now after we created our presentation, we can go and run it to see the so-called slideshow, which automatically shows in a sequence the slides in our presentation. In order to do this, you can go here in the slideshow menu and click the button from beginning. As a result, you see your presentation on the whole screen, and you could use the arrow buttons on your keyboard or a remote control to go between the slides in your presentation. For example, I am using now the arrow key, so I click on the right, and you can see how I am actually moving between the slides in my presentation. In order to close the presentation or to stop it, you can click on the escape button and you go directly back to the working environment, which is the Microsoft PowerPoint application, the file that has been created and named PowerPoint Basics, which file contains 3 slides, 3 pages, presenting your results. However, it is also important how we are going to present these results. Of course, we have already used some of the effects such as font type, font size, font color, shadow of the font. Also, we inserted background, but still there are many things that could enhance our presentation. For example, we can go and select the transition menu. Here you will see there are different options, and when you click on here, you will see different options which show how we could actually, while going between the slides, to present each of the slides. So for example, if I select this option, dissolve, and I apply it to the first slide. When I select all the slides, for example, clicking on the shift button and the left mouse button, and select dissolve from transition menu, then you see here we've got few asterisks which appeared, which means that we have just applied some animation which is going to be used when we transition between the slides from first to second to third and so forth. And let's check how this is working. Just save your work, go here to the slideshow menu, click on from beginning button, and now you can see how nicely, when you're going between the separate pages, each of the slides, I mean the pages, gets opened with some visual effect. To go back to the file, click on the escape button, and again click on save. I forgot to mention, but here you can directly run the PowerPoint presentation when you click on the F5 button. And do you see it directly opens the slideshow, where you can go from left to right between the slides with the transition effect that you have just added. And you can see here when you click the right arrow button or left, whenever you go from one slide to another, you see the visual effect, I mean the transition animation, which happens. However, in some occasions I found it would be useful. Let's check, let's select slide number 2, where we've got charts. It is also interesting and helpful when we are going to show a slide containing tables and charts. These tables and charts to show up in a certain way, the way based on which they are showing on the slide, to make it more appealing. For example, we can go and select the animation menu, and once I have selected this pie chart, I can go and select the way it is going to appear in my slide. For example, let's say fly in. Now the animation effect has just been applied to my pie chart. Let's see how it works. Click on F5 button to run the PowerPoint presentation, then go with the arrow keys from left to right. And do you see, as soon as you open the second slide, in order to make the second figure appear, you can click once again on the arrow key, right arrow key, and as a result our chart just is appearing from somewhere. When you close your slideshow by clicking on the escape button, you can again select also the preceding bar chart. You can also go to the animations menu and select the way it will be coming or appearing. Let's say float in. This digit or number shows that we just applied animation effect to our first figure, which is the bar chart. Click on save and again run the slideshow to see the effects. Click on F5 to run the slideshow, and again use your arrow keys. Click on the right arrow key to go to the second page, and now you can only see the table, but the results from this table haven't been illustrated yet on charts. To do this, click once again on the right arrow button, and you see the second figure appeared. Once again the first one. Probably I had to start in the different sequence, but the effect is important to see how easily the animation and transition effects are being applied into our slides from our PowerPoint presentation to illustrate or to focus on a particular specific table or chart. If you want to highlight something, this is something which could attract the attention of the audience, just the effect itself. And then once the data is here, you can go and show what data says, analyze it, draw conclusions, so that the audience understands what you're talking about. Now you can click again the escape button to close the slideshow, and again go and click on the save button to save the changes that you have just did. There is also interesting and helpful approach if you are going to the first slide and insert some objects. For example, go to the insert menu and click here where it was, shapes. So go to the insert menu here, select shapes and scroll down, and at the bottom you can see there are different buttons called action buttons. These buttons are quite helpful sometimes when the remote control, let's say due to the battery failure, stops working, and this is the way you could just use these action buttons to go from one slide to another. And let's say, okay, let's insert one button on the cover page. I select this one action button, which is called go forward or next. I select this button, put it in here in this way, and we see the window that gets open. Hyperlink automatically suggested to go to the next slide, which is logical because this is the cover slide, and there are no any other slides which precede this slide. So we need just one button here to go forward. We can also play a sound. For example, let's say wind sound, so that once we click on this button, we not only will go from this slide to the next one, but there will be a sound highlighting or enhancing the effect of this. Let's check. Save your work and press the F5 button to open your PowerPoint presentation. When you go and click on this button, you saw that it transferred the control to the second page where we can show the table as well as the graphics. Do you see? However, here probably it is good to create two more buttons which allows you to go back or to go forwards. This is why you can go here, select this button, copy this button and go to the second page, and with Ctrl V you can go and paste this button here, which automatically already has got the direction it is forwarding the control to, namely to the next page, and also with some sound effect. You can save your work. Of course, sometimes we need to go not only forwards but to go backwards. For example, there might be a question from the audience asking you to go back to the previous page or slide and to repeat something that you have talked about, or to highlight something, or to reply to audience's questions. So this is why I will need at least one more button here. I go here to the insert menu, select illustration section, shapes, go down and select action button which is called go back or previous. This is the action that it is doing, go back or previous slide. And I go here and create this button. Automatically action settings window gets open, which gives us the option to go to the previous slide, although there might be other options that we could select to go to the last slide, to follow URL and many others, but in this particular case I will leave it as it is. Namely, as soon as I click on this button, I will be transferred to the previous slide. And again, I can put here a play sound. This time could be, let's say, typewriter. Click OK. And then when I save my work and run a slideshow again by clicking on the F5 button, I can go from the cover slide to the second one by clicking on the button. I can show here when I click with the mouse button twice the second and the first figure. But in case, let's say, okay, there might be a question that has been raised by the audience, they want me or asking me to go back, then I could click here. Okay, I could click here to go back to the previous slide, and I get transferred to the previous slide. I would then talk about whatever I have been asked for. Then I can go and continue ahead and ahead, so that I go to the last slide here. On the last slide, we could put not only a button which goes back. Let's say I copy this button, go to the last slide, paste it here, so that once I completed the presentation, I can easily go back to the previous slide if it's needed. For example, there might be questions and answers section, and then someone may ask you something, so that you should go back to your tables and show the results. On the other hand, if everything has finished and the presentation has finished, you might want to close the presentation. This is why we could use another button. You can go to the Insert menu again, Illustration section, click on the Shapes menu, scroll down and select, which button was this? Blank. Go home. Go to End. Okay, for example, if we choose this button here, go forward or next, there should be, I found it, the so-called function End Show. So we have chosen a button Go Forward, but in this particular case, we'll assign to it the functionality which ends the slideshow. So I click on here, and this functionality, once I have clicked on this button, will close the slideshow. Of course, you can select a play sound, for example, laser. Click on here. In order to see the effect, you can again run the PowerPoint presentation, clicking the F5 button. Click on this button to go to the next slide. Click on here with the mouse once again to show the charts which visualize your results from the table. Go to the last section to thank your audience, and when you click on here, you see that you get transferred to your file, which means that the presentation, I mean the PowerPoint slideshow, has finished. So in this way, we also added few simple buttons which have got behind the scenes some functionalities which allows you to go backwards, forwards, in between the slides from one direction to another, including to close the slideshow. And of course, there are also two more buttons, if you can see: Insert, Illustration, Shapes. These buttons are called Go to Beginning, Go to the End. For example, I might have one more button here at the third slide, which I can insert here, let's say, which gives me the option to go back to the first slide. Once I have finished the presentation, I can go directly to the initial slide, which is the cover slide, using this effect, let's say, let's say push sound. Okay, and by the way, if I'm going to close the presentation, probably it is good when I double click here and select edit link. I can go and change the sound, for example, applause. Why? Because when we would like to close the presentation, eventually it is expected, if the presentation itself has been interesting to the audience, you might hear some applauses, and this is why I have put here applause. Let's see how it's working. Interesting. Let's check the functionality of the button which should be going directly to the first slide. Yes, it returned to the first slide. Here I can put one more button, which I forgot. On the cover page I can insert similar button to the one that I just inserted, but this allows it to go from the first to the last slide directly, without transitioning in between the slides. So for example, if I choose action button go to end, for example here, this button goes directly to the last slide. This is the functionality that it brings. And I put here play sound, let's say applause, click on here, save my work, run the slideshow with F5 and click on this button to see what happens. Did you see directly transferred the control to the last page, where actually is the thank you message? And this reminds me that probably on the second page, once I have completed presenting the data, the visualization of this data, the analysis and the results, as well as the conclusions, it is probably more appropriate to add here the applause sound, because here is the place when we go from the last slide to the one that thanks to the audience. For example, edit link, select here play sound, applause, apply it by clicking on the OK button, save your work, run the slideshow, go to the next slide, show the data in a tabular format, present it graphically, analyze it, draw conclusions, and eventually when it is done, you can click on this button, which brings you to the last page, where you just heard the applauses by the audience, if they are satisfied, if they are happy based on what they heard, and if the presentation has been interesting and useful to them. And then you can click on this button to end the presentation, click save. So I think that we covered a lot of things, but this is just the beginning. This is why I decided to name this video PowerPoint Basics. Actually, now you've got the basics, but these basics can always be extended, so that the journey just has started. Probably the last thing that would be helpful is to mention that once we have created this presentation, we can click on the F12 button and we can save it under the PDF extension here. In this way, we save the content of our PowerPoint presentation into a PDF file. Do you see? Now we've got the PDF file, which also can be used for learning purposes, and this file contains your presentation. And here, as you can see, the buttons are still working, which is quite nice. Close the PDF. And probably the last thing, some of you might want to export this PowerPoint presentation in a video format. For example, you might choose to create a video which presents your presentation. When I click here, create a video, it allows you to export the content of your PowerPoint presentation into a video format, and it also allows you to leave some seconds, the seconds or the duration of time each of the slides will be shown. Let's check. Let's leave 3 seconds. Click on the create video button, and now it is suggesting me that the basic PowerPoint presentation will be saved under a video format in MP4 extension video. So I can click on the export, and at some point, because the file of your presentation is not that big, it contains only few slides, the video that gets recorded will not be large in terms of the size. And in order to see how the video looks like, you can go here and double click on the video file so that you can launch it. Do you see? A video is being shown, and on each page it's staying 3 seconds. This is what we set as a configuration, and then the video finishes. So that now we've got the PowerPoint presentation in PPTX file, we've got the PowerPoint presentation saved in a PDF file and exported to a video file which has got MP4 extension file format. And again, you can save your work. I think that that video was quite helpful. You have learned a lot, but on the other hand, we just get started. So I will be happy to continue this series of videos, and I would like to thank you for your attention, and would like to wish you a happy learning, and thank you once again. And eventually, once the video has finished, you can go and close the file and the directory and the initial file that we used as well. Don't save the changes, and that's it. I will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.